Hello, everyone. I'm going to switch languages up for you. If you, in the Q&A, you want to do it in Polish, go for it. You can ask me. I'm going to answer in English, though. I wanted to do something a little bit different today. Usually come in and I talk actually something you guys are touching on a little bit with Robert. I get in very regulation, AML, KYC heavy, and get into what my company does. So I'm a co-founder and chief marketing officer of Konferencja. I'll tell you a tiny bit about us real quick. Then I'm going to get more into how we see or how I see what's kind of generally going on the market. As a chief marketing officer, I deal with media a lot as well. And you get to see what's being written, what's not being written, what expectations are, everybody being focused around speculation, etc. But the truth is, and this once again touches what you guys are asking Robert there at the end, you know, what's really happened on the enterprise end, on the integrations end, on the true adoption from the business sense end. Because speculating around Bitcoin day to day is not implementation, adoption, and growth of this technology on any sort of massive scale. Quick about us. In Poland, we're probably most known actually for True Datum, which is what a blockchain solution we implemented into BitHub.pl, where they serviced around already 5 million Polish citizens with updated documents registered in blockchain through this platform. But we're most known globally for our AML platform, which is what I'm going to touch on a little bit more today because I think it's a little bit more relevant to everything in a sense. And also AMLT, and I'll tell you guys a little bit more about how that fits into why and how we're going to make the crypto and blockchain economy much more transparent, safer, and secure than the traditional system ever could be. A bit about us. We've been around successfully for about 3 years. That makes us pretty much a dinosaur in this industry. Right now we have 3 offices, almost 100 people. And you see some big numbers there about addresses monitored, transaction monitored. At the end of the day, other than being extremely AML, KYC compliance, regulatory focused, we're really a big data analytics company that has one of the largest structured blockchain databases in the world. And we have a cool list of people we work with, including Robert and Dash, but includes anyone from some of the biggest banks in the world all the way down to exchanges or wallets. Blockchain agnostic, this is important, something that is going to be very important and more important for a lot of these applications around blockchain coming into the future. It's not a singular blockchain world, and it never will be. The ability for you successfully, if you have a company in the space, to address across different blockchains and cryptocurrencies is going to be very important. We build every single one of our solutions on that technological basis. The technical ability to integrate any type of blockchain or cryptocurrency into the platform, structure it, service it. That's the reason we work with Dash, right? So when you guys are asking Robert those questions, that's also where we come in. And we say this is how it can be done, and this is how it can be done even better than the traditional space, which I'll get into later. So right now we have the largest coverage on the market. Actually, as a little sneak peek for you guys, we have Litecoin and Stellar coming in over the next couple weeks, months. So if you have projects in that space around the Stellar ecosystem or you touch on Litecoin, feel free to talk to me. First, some misconceptions. I know most people here are crypto people from what I can tell, so you know these are misconceptions, a lot of these. But they're still fun to look at. Of course, Jamie Dimon took back what he said. I'm going to get into the next one with the child abuse imagery. It's kind of an interesting thing from the media end. People can be hacked. We know that that's not true. It's third-party applications that are being hacked on top of the blockchain. And money laundering index, I'm going to get into why that's absolute bullshit. This is funny. Same statement published 8 years apart. As someone who comes out of digital media originally, the digital space has pushed media to carry more about attracting eyes than attracting quality, let's say, reading. So this is going to get a lot more attention than, wow, Bitcoin did something great yesterday. This is human nature. So I don't think we're ever going to be able to fully fight that off, but awareness around it is important. This is also equally dangerous bullshit. So there's a lot of entities. I think one of the actual bigger issues around crypto is that there's too much ideology. People put in their identity and ideology with it, and if you don't agree with what could even be a technicality, it's like you're attacking their entire existence and way of being. And I get it. But also people use that to, let's say, manipulate how people view things that are happening on the market. So, for example, this is a lie. I don't know how CoinFirm can confiscate your coins. Matter of fact, you shouldn't be keeping your coins with anybody to where they could potentially confiscate them. So these are equally dangerous lies that go around the industry and actually hurt a lot of companies, because then they read that, and X amount of years down the line, a regulator, legal comes to them, etc., and they say, well, how have you been doing these processes? And they say, well, we think they're bullshit, so we don't do them. Well, then they're in trouble, and the company's in trouble. This just happened the other day. This Bitcoin will go to zero. Once again, I don't like the speculative end. So in Davos, all these smart people in Davos are regurgitating their opinions right now. From my personal end, as long as you people have interest here, and I bet there's more than one person here that's interested in Bitcoin, I don't think that's ever going to be the case, as long as we also keep the technological factors in place. How about some truths? Okay, Bitcoin might not go to zero, but you're going to see a lot of your buddies' projects disappearing, their websites going down. It is happening already. I can't tell you how many even clients or potential clients I've spoken to over the past 3 months, 4 months, that were riding high 9 months ago, a year ago, and now they're not even around. I was in Silicon Valley recently and was talking to VCs a lot there. And from what I can tell, it's the same movement the dot-com bubble and burst did. And they're approaching it seemingly in the same way. They throw loads of money at a bunch of high-risk, high-return potential projects in the beginning. They get burnt on them, which is what's happening right now. So there's a cleansing of the market. And the projects that come out on the other end, they're willing to overpay to invest in, because they believe that's the next Facebook, that's the next Google, that's the next Yahoo. These are the companies that have weathered the storm, proven their business models, and can exist long term. But moral of the story is, you're going to see thousands of projects dying now. ICO market is dead. Barry says that in the form that I think a lot of us picture it as. Yeah, it's for the most part dead. But there's something else that's emerging out of it, which I'll get into later. And here's the last truth. Spoke to these guys personally, actually, right after this happened. So, back to the ideology. There were companies that were set up pretty much saying, we're never going to do AML KYC. Okay, you might get away with that for a few years in a very, very early market that authorities don't understand how to regulate or approach. But eventually, as we say in English, shit hits the fan. So eventually the US government came to them. They said, you do this or bye, generally, basically speaking. That's coming in, whether you like it or not. If you want to exist in a legitimate space, follow accordingly. I don't want to get into this too much, because I think a lot of people here understand the differences between how, let's say, the traditional financial system works and how kind of a blockchain or crypto-based economy would look. But I do want to get into something we know a lot about, which is a big difference. And this is an argument that I hope, people such as Robert and his team are using, and anybody with the company's using whenever they run into somebody, which is, I'm going to get into, is that blockchain is actually much more secure, much more safe, much more transparent, and much easier to enforce, quote unquote, AML KYC regulations. Because if you don't know, most of the regulatory compliance problems that exist around crypto and blockchain exist around AML KYC. Just like Shift, just like Binance pretty much was being forced to get into the AML KYC game. This is the size of the money laundering problem in the world, $2 trillion. It's a good percentage of the global economy. 1%, sorry. All right, so in Europe, they're spending $20 billion on it, at least. Just the banks, companies, etc. But yet, for some reason, it's not working out. It's a highly, highly inefficient, ineffective, very manual process. And the truth is if you understand blockchain in its technological sense even, understand how to analyze it and pull out certain conclusions, you can take something that was ineffective, inefficient, didn't work, 1% effectiveness. Come on. and you can turn it into something that's automated, much more effective, much more efficient, 90 times more effective. Okay? So, and when you're understanding the cryptocurrencies you interact with, just like if we were to go to that image I showed you earlier where it talked about the hops, understand what you're using. This isn't the dollar bill. This isn't cash. I know exactly where you went, what you're doing with it, where it went. I know how to pull actionable conclusions out of it. It's the reality of this tech, unless you're using Monero. But then good luck interacting with the traditional space afterwards. All right, some things that we're seeing. Markets maturing. Part of that is regulators are maturing. I talked to a company the other day that a bunch of British guys with accents, companies registered in Belarus. Because it's the only jurisdiction that has a proper regulational approach towards what they're doing, which I'll talk about in a sec. Something else you're going to see, exchanges, they're going to change form. If you're used to, the easy, light AML KYC, that's going to be changing. The market's changing. So I'm an American, if you can't tell originally. You're about to see the U.S. market open up this year. And when the U.S. market opens up, it's going to be a totally different game. All right, but what's happening that's bridging these markets? Because, there's a big promise out of crypto, but I think people ran into a wall and realized that really it's about bridging these two markets as opposed to destroying one. And I think the traditional space sees the opportunity. A lot of people don't understand this, but Binance made more profit in a quarter than one of the largest banks. So the use case is there. Once again, market is maturing. So I'm going to talk about a few of these, okay? First one is stablecoins, which I'll get into in a bit. So you have some of the largest banks in the world creating their own ecosystems. You also have companies like Circle creating stablecoins which are going to serve as on-ramps between the traditional space and the crypto space and vice versa. And this leads to security token offerings. I threw up two companies that are companies we work with that are platforms that are focused on security token offerings. Remember I told you ICOs are dying. That whole thing is dead. Yes, there's going to be some sort of very limited cases for utility tokens that exist. They do exist. But 99.9% of what you saw in the ICO space really should be treated as security. So what you're going to get is security token offerings. And especially when the U.S. market opens up later this year, this is going to boom. Because really at the end of the day, if you're worried about securities law, you're not worried about, China coming to Poland and arresting you and taking you back to China. You're worried about the United States. All right, so I talked a little bit about stablecoins, how they serve on on-ramps, right? So for example, that Japanese bank, they already have their employees testing and using their stablecoin in convenience stores. So this is being used on the market. Something already being used on the market, some of you may know about, is what we did with PKOBP. I think, Poland and Polish should have a little bit more pride and give them a little bit more credit for what they've done around this. This stands as of right now to be probably the largest true blockchain implementation in the banking and traditional financial sector. And it's going on as something that touches a lot of people, as opposed to something being exclusively in the pack between two internal parties. And this is also a project that technologically we built on Dash. Like I said, we're blockchain agnostic, so we have the technical capability for whatever enterprise application to customize it. But our de facto standard is actually the Dash blockchain. So any clients we're working with this solution, because it's not just something for PKOBP, we're dealing with telecoms, we're dealing with insurance companies right now, et cetera. It's something that, like I said, is bridging these two worlds. So now you can look at Dash not just as, let's say, digital cash, a payment structure, but also an infrastructure. but also an infrastructure for the financial system overall. A ty się martwiłeś, że mi się nie uda z czasem, z tymi slajdami, widzisz? All right, last I'm going to get into a project that, for me, I'm pretty passionate about and I help lead, which is called AMLT. So I didn't want to get too much into the Coin from AML platform, into those specifics. But it's a really, really unique beast and engine that we've built. We take data sources from lots of different places. Of course, we take data directly off blockchain from Genesis block. We're crawling web, deep web Tor, both automatically and manually with our data science team. Go through leaks, etc., pull that, throw that in the database. And also something we've been using as part of our original vision to kind of democratize the financial space is we give market participants, you people, a voice. And we provide you a tool and a system and a mechanism to where, because how about this? If you run into ransomware, scam, fraud that's related to crypto, a crypto address, where do you go? Where do you submit that data? Anyone? Okay, that's what I thought. Crickets. There is no place. So where's A, the voice for the market? B, that's loads and loads of data and things that are happening on the market that are not being addressed. And I know a lot of people don't like the AML KYC end for many different reasons, but AML KYC is actually in this space to help limit and prevent and stop certain things like that. So when you see Cryptopia get hacked, all right, use case that I'm going to give later. I'm going to give it to you a bit later. But the point is that there's no voice for the market to speak about these things. And it's also why the compliance system in the traditional space sucks. It's because they're not listening to the best data source and voice in the whole market, which is market participants themselves. So what we built on top of the Coin from AML platform is an entire system where the market can speak to us, can provide us this data. We take that data, our data science team goes through it. If the data is viewed as legitimate after our data science team goes through it, they implement into the Coin from AML platform. For giving us proper data, network members get our tokens back, which they then use for our services that they're using already anyways for the most part. Right? So we're incentivizing this. So let me give you a use case. Big exchange gets hacked. And this is a real use case. This happened. Big exchange gets hacked. They report it to us, right? We go through it fast enough, implement to the Coin from AML platform. Another exchange on the other end of the world who's using our platform now sees that there's funds coming in that were flagged directly to that address and to that action that happened, and they can freeze them. So not only is this something that helps block these actions, but it helps prevent them in the future. Because if I'm a guy who's doing something like that, if it's really hard for me to use these funds or liquidate them anywhere, my incentive drops a lot. Just like if I were to rob a bank and when I leave the bank, every bill is marked. And that was just common practice. It would be very hard to be a bank robber. So we're doing a few cool things with this project, thinking outside of the box. That's actually how the panel looks like. You guys can go on amlt.coinfirm.com. You can create a profile, start submitting data. It's about to be the end of month 4. We've already rewarded, in the beta period, for 3 months, we've rewarded 100,000 tokens to network members each month. Reward them for the data we're providing. We've had over 1,000 different addresses and evidence provided to us in the first 2.5 months or so. Cool thing we're doing though is, and this is the big picture once again, because the compliance system is so ineffective at what it does, it can't discriminate based off you as individuals very well. So when you talk about these massive, beautiful growing economies like Africa, some parts in Asia, they can't discriminate, so they throw a high-risk blanket on the entire country, on the entire region. For example, Nigeria has thousands and thousands of really great entrepreneurs doing great things. But because the system treats them the way that it treats them from a risk end, they don't have proper access to the global financial system on a good scale. They can't get loans, business loans, and they can't access the bigger traditional world. So what we're trying to do is make the system so damn effective is that we can discriminate on you based as individuals and judge that way. And this is going to help it because not only can you put in data on negative, nefarious aspects, which is going to help clean up that economy as well, because if you know, one of the biggest issues in these economies is transparency and corruption. If you introduce a blockchain-based system economy with reporting tools like that, you can clear that out, because you can't run on blockchain. But most importantly, you can also report good stuff. Hey, I've been transacting with this business for 3 years. I know they're in Nigeria. Here's some evidence about how they're good actors, our transactions, etc. And we can maybe lower their risk rating. Or they can become a part of the network, go through our KYC processes, be cleared, have a lower risk rating in the system. Right? So it's not just about, we're not in the game of enforcement, by the way. Think of us as, you know, when we started and people didn't understand what we were doing, because like AML KYC was abstract as hell for crypto 3 years ago. I would say think of us as what kind of Google did for the internet. It took X amount of algorithms, took distributed, you know, disconnected data. You remember you used to have to put every single individual URL. You had to know exactly where that was going. And through some algorithms, they took this huge, massive world of data and structured it into ways that we can use. That's what we're doing with blockchain-related data. We're analyzing and structuring data in ways that are valuable for you people to use, whether as a business or as an individual. So AMLT is the next step around that. We've already had some great partners with it. Token Market's one. I hope to actually build a system for Dash sometime soon in the near future. So if you want to talk to me or ask me about any of this stuff, I'm more than open. People who know me know that. Happy to talk about anything you want. And look forward to your questions. And thank you, everyone.